There are moments that don't simply pass, they echo, they hum quietly beneath the skin, reappearing when you least expect them before this story begins. Please like the video and subscribe the channel as it helps me a lot. Sometimes they begin without warning, like the hush before a summer storm, or a song that plays too softly to fully hear. Yet it lingers in your chest that evening wasn't meant to be anything more than dinner, just laughter, just old memories. But somehow it became something more, something warm, something impossible to explain. I remember standing by the mirror longer than usual that evening. It wasn't vanity, was something else, a pulse, a tug. I couldn't name. My hair fell just right, my blouse hugged in the right places, and my eyes, there was something in them I hadn't seen in years. I wasn't dressing for anyone, at least, that's what I told myself. But a tiny whisper inside said otherwise. That whisper was curious. Hopeful, nervous Aiden had casually mentioned over breakfast. Liam, Jay, and Kieran are in town. They'll probably come by this weekend. My spoon stopped midair when I heard those names. Not because they were unfamiliar, but because they were far too familiar. I had seen them grow from loud, lanky boys to men who carried themselves with a kind of presence that made silence feel full. And though I hadn't seen them in nearly a year, each name brought a flicker of something unexpected to the surface. "Why don't you invite them for dinner?" I heard myself say, smiling. It wasn't just for Aiden. Something in me wanted to see them again. They arrived just after 7. I opened the door with a practiced calm, though my heart thudded like I was about to step on stage the moment I saw them. All that calm melted into something warmer. There, they were taller, broader, more confident, but still with the same sparkle in their eyes. Liam's gaze found mine, first steady and deep. Kieran grinned that same disarming grin, and Jay, he watched me with the same quiet intensity one remembered. But there was something else there now, a stillness. "Wait," Clara, Liam said softly, like the name held meaning. My name had never sounded so intentional. I smiled, stepping aside to let them in. It's been too long. The evening unfolded like a familiar song, but the lyrics felt different now. They talked and laughed, tossing around memories with Aiden. While I moved in and out of the kitchen, I could feel their eyes, each of them in their own way, finding me between words in the pauses. They weren't boys anymore, and I wasn't just the mother of their friend anymore. Either something had shifted. We all sat around the table, the glow of the candles casting shadows that danced on the walls. Aiden talked about work, his travels, his future plans. The boys chimed in with teasing and pride, but I noticed how every now and then Liam's hand would rest closer to mine, how Kieran's gaze lingered when I laughed, how Jay never really looked away at all. I brought out desserts, something sweet, something warm. "Just like old times," I said, placing the bowls down. "You always spoiled us," Kieran said, reaching for his spoon. "This house, it's like coming back to something I didn't know I missed." Liam was quieter. He leaned back slightly, studying me with eyes that felt like they were peeling back years. "You've always made this place feel like more than a house. It's you." I laughed gently, brushing off the comment, but my hand trembled slightly as I lifted my glass. "You boys have grown up too fast," I said. "You noticed?" Jay spoke for the first time in a while. His voice was low, unhurried. He looked at me, not just at my face, but deeper. "We noticed that about you too. Time hasn't touched you the way it should have." I didn't answer, couldn't. There was nothing inappropriate in his words, and yet they wrapped around me like a slow breeze, raising tiny bumps along my skin. Aiden excused himself to take a call upstairs, and for the first time that evening, it was just the 4 of us. The atmosphere didn't shift with noise or laughter, but with something quieter. A softness, a question that hadn't been asked yet, but hovered in the room like perfume. Kieran stood and began clearing the table. "Let me help," he offered. I followed him into the kitchen, and as we stood over the sink, our shoulders brushed. Once then again he turned to me, his voice low, almost amused, almost reverent. "You know, I used to have the biggest crush on you back in school. I smiled, keeping my gaze on the plates. You and every other teenage boy who ever came to this house, but it never really stopped. He added quietly, "It just changed my breath. Hitched slightly, but I kept washing." He didn't press it, just handed me the next dish, his fingers brushing mine. The silence said more than his words did. Back in the dining room, Jay stood by the window watching the stars. I joined him, drawn by something I couldn't quite explain. He didn't look at me, just spoke into the night. Sometimes I wondered what it would be like to talk to you as an equal, not as a friend's mom, just as someone I admired. You always were the quiet on.